A shot rings out, not just any shot. This is a shot that will reverberate through the annals of history, a shot that will change the course of nations and the lives of millions. This shot echoes through history. It is not merely the sound of a gun discharging, it is the sound of an era coming to an abrupt end. June 28, 1914, Sarajevo, a city on the edge, a world on the brink. A young man, barely a man, fires a pistol. His name is Gavrilo Princip, a name that will soon be etched into the pages of history. His target? Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, a man whose death will ignite a firestorm. The world watches in disbelief. The assassination sends shockwaves through the corridors of power. This is not just the death of a prince, it is a moment that signifies the end of an era, the twilight of an old world. It's the death of an era. The old world with its empires and alliances begins to crumble. The old world order built on alliances and empires trembles. Treaties that once promised peace now seem like chains dragging nations into conflict. The assassin, Gavrilo Princip, thinks he's striking a blow for freedom. He believes he is fighting for his people, for their right to self-determination. He doesn't know it yet, but he's lit the fuse of a world war, a conflict that will engulf nations and reshape the globe. This is the story of how a single act of violence can shatter the peace of nations, how one moment can set the world on a path to destruction. It's a story of empires, of nationalism, of a world on the brink, a world teetering on the edge of chaos. It's the story of how the world sleepwalked into the Great War, a war that would change everything, leaving nothing untouched. Imagine Europe in 1914. Not the romantic Europe of postcards. This Europe is a powder keg, ready to explode. Empires, old and powerful, cling to their power. Germany, a rising giant, wants its place in the sun. Nationalism is on the rise. People want their own countries, their own destinies. The Balkans, a region of simmering tensions, is a tinderbox. Everyone is armed, everyone is suspicious. They're waiting for a spark. Into this volatile mix step Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. Their visit to Sarajevo was meant to be a show of strength. Instead, it becomes a tragedy, and that tragedy will set the world on fire. To understand the assassination, we need to understand the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This vast empire, sprawling across Central and Eastern Europe, was a complex and diverse entity. It was not a single unified nation, but rather a conglomerate of various ethnic groups, each with its own distinct identity and aspirations. This wasn't some monolithic state. It was a mosaic of cultures, traditions, and languages, all coexisting under one imperial rule. It was a patchwork of different peoples, languages, and religions. The empire was home to Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Slovaks, Poles, Serbs, Croats, Bosniaks, Romanians, and many others. Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Serbs, Croats, Bosniaks, all thrown together under one crown. Each group had its own customs, its own way of life, and its own vision for the future. Holding it all together was the aging Emperor Franz Joseph. He was a symbol of continuity and stability in an ever-changing world. He'd ruled for almost 70 years, a relic of a bygone era. His long reign had seen the empire through numerous challenges and transformations, but the empire was creaking at the seams. The pressures of modernity and the rise of nationalist movements were beginning to take their toll. Nationalism was pulling it apart. Different ethnic groups were demanding more autonomy, more recognition, and in some cases, complete independence. And nowhere was the tension higher than in the Balkans. This region was a melting pot of ethnicities and religions, each with its own historical grievances and ambitions. The Balkans were a hotbed of ethnic and religious strife. The competing interests of various groups made it a volatile and unpredictable region. Serbia, an independent Slavic nation, dreamed of uniting all the South Slavs under its banner. This vision was seen as a direct threat to the stability of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This included Bosnia, which Austria-Hungary had annexed in 1908. The annexation was a bold move that further inflamed nationalist sentiments in the region. The annexation enraged Serbia and Russia, its powerful Slavic protector. Russia saw itself as the defender of Slavic peoples and was determined to support Serbia in its ambitions. The stage was set for conflict. The intricate web of alliances and rivalries in Europe meant that any spark in the Balkans could ignite a much larger conflagration. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand would be that spark, setting off a chain of events that would lead to the First World War. Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the throne, was a complex figure. He was seen as a modernizer, someone who could reform the empire and save it. He also had a controversial love life. He'd fallen for Sophie Chotek, a Czech countess, but she wasn't considered royal enough. Their marriage was morganatic, meaning their children couldn't inherit the throne. Despite the opposition, Franz Ferdinand adored Sophie. He saw their trip to Sarajevo as a chance to show her off, to defy the court. But it was a dangerous gamble. Sarajevo was a hotbed of Serbian nationalism, and there were those who wanted the Archduke dead. Section 5, the Black Hand Seeds of Chaos. Enter the Black Hand. This was a secret society, Serbian nationalists dedicated to freeing Bosnia from Austro-Hungarian rule. They saw Franz Ferdinand as an oppressor, a symbol of everything they hated, and they decided to kill him. The Black Hand recruited a group of young men, including Gavrilo Princip. They were idealists, fueled by anger and resentment. They believed that killing the Archduke would spark a revolution. They had no idea of the inferno they were about to unleash. Section 6, Sarajevo, a city of fate, June 28, 1914. A sunny Sunday in Sarajevo. The Archduke and Sophie arrive by train. The crowds are out, festive and curious. Security is lax. This is a time before assassinations become commonplace. No one can imagine what's about to happen. The Archduke's motorcade sets off. It's a slow, stately procession. The perfect target. The Black Hand is waiting. They're armed with pistols and bombs. They've been trained to kill. Section 7, the assassination, a moment that changed the world. The first attempt fails. A bomb is thrown, but it bounces off the Archduke's car. He's shaken but unharmed. Fate, it seems, has other plans. The motorcade changes its route, a wrong turn, a twist of fate. Gavrilo Princip, despondent after the failed attack, is wandering through the streets. He stops at a cafe, and then he sees it. The Archduke's car stalled in traffic right in front of him. This is his chance. He pulls out his pistol. 2 shots ring out. Franz Ferdinand and Sophie are both hit. They die within minutes. The world is stunned. No one can believe that a seemingly insignificant event like this could have such far-reaching consequences, but they are about to find out. Section 8, the July Crisis, a continent on the brink. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand sends shockwaves through Europe. Austria-Hungary, outraged, blames Serbia and issues an ultimatum. The demands are deliberately humiliating, designed to provoke a war. Germany, Austria-Hungary's ally, urges them on. They see this as a chance to assert their dominance. Russia, bound by treaty to protect Serbia, mobilizes its army. France, allied with Russia, prepares for war. The diplomatic machinery of Europe, designed to prevent war, breaks down. Ultimatums are issued and ignored. Armies are mobilized. Within weeks, the continent is on the brink of war. Section 9, the Great War, a legacy of blood and iron. On August 4, 1914, Germany declares war on Russia and France. The world stands on the brink of a conflict unlike any it has ever seen. The intricate web of alliances and treaties meant to preserve peace now pulls nation after nation into the fray. World War I has begun. The war to end all wars, as it was optimistically called, would soon reveal the depths of human suffering and the heights of human endurance. The conflict that no one wanted, that everyone feared, has become a reality. Families are torn apart and the world holds its breath as the first shots are fired. And it all started with the assassination of an Archduke in Sarajevo. The murder of Franz Ferdinand set off a chain reaction, a domino effect that no one could stop. The war will last for 4 long years. Millions will die. Empires will crumble. The landscape of Europe will be forever altered, scarred by the trenches and the memories of those who fought and fell. The world will be forever changed. The old order will be swept away, and a new, uncertain future will emerge from the ashes of the old. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand was not the sole cause of World War I. The tensions had been building for years, fueled by nationalism, imperial ambitions, and a complex web of alliances. But it was the spark that ignited the powder keg. The world watched in horror as the flames of war spread across Europe, consuming everything in their path. It was a stark reminder that even seemingly small events can have earth-shattering consequences. The assassination was a catalyst, but the underlying causes were far more complex and deep-rooted. The legacy of the Great War is still with us today. The scars of the conflict are etched into the very fabric of our world, a constant reminder of the cost of war. It shaped the 20th century and continues to cast a long shadow over the 21st. The political boundaries, the social upheavals, and the technological advancements all bear the mark of the Great War. It is a reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastating consequences of unchecked nationalism and militarism. The lessons of the Great War are as relevant today as they were a century ago. It is a lesson we must never forget. The sacrifices of those who lived through the Great War must not be in vain. We must strive to build a world where such a conflict can never happen again.